Welcome everybody, it's Telemann. In this video we are going to be looking at the new loading screen we got from the end of the new comic book issue number 3, and this one's absolutely amazing. Don't get me wrong, the other ones are good, but this one is just on another level and I absolutely love it. So what it is, it's a remake of the notched loading screen, and this one has a lot of hints from Mob of the Dead and The Rise of the Rocket, just a bunch of different maps, and it's just so cool. And of course I'll have it on screen right now for you guys to look at, and it's just so beautiful. So let's actually break this down a little bit, and first off let's look all the way to the left and look at this one guy standing in this light, and this guy is actually holding a baton and kind of looks zombified. So my best bet is that this is actually Ferguson, so the guard from Mob of the Dead, and it's just pretty interesting to see this. We really don't know exactly why he's there, and I really don't know if that date under him has anything to do with the time he's actually staying there, because if you think about 1914, that really doesn't have any real relation to Mob of the Dead, because Mob of the Dead took place in 1933, which is another date we see there, but we'll get into that in just a second. But really Ferguson shouldn't really be zombified or even an adult at the year of 1914. But anyways, really any real significance in the year 1914 within the zombie storyline really doesn't exist. But in real life, the only significance, or I shouldn't say only, but the significance of 1914 is actually that World War I actually started. So besides that, I really don't know anything. Of course, one connection I can think of is that Origins took place in 1918, which was the end of World War I, but this is actually 1914 when World War I actually started. So maybe the storyline actually started before even Origins, which would be so insane. I have one idea for this, but of course we'll get to that towards the end when we actually get to the last image, because I think it most relates to that one. But anyways, 1914 would be a real new start to the zombie storyline, and of course I do know there was back in the medieval days with Primus, but that's really not important right now because that's technically in the future of our character's life, not in the future of normal life, but it's a future of our characters. But anyways, besides that, it's really all I can say about that one image right there. So the next one, and we actually see this one guy sitting at a desk, and we see a candle and a bunch of demonish looking faces. And what I think this is, and I believe a lot of people also agree with this, is that maybe this is actually the Warden. And the reason I say this is because of a Mob of the Dead quote we got from Cell, and he starts talking about how the Warden was doing these satanic rituals and all this weird stuff that he was doing, and he was kind of saying maybe he's the cause of Mob of the Dead and why it took place, which would be so cool. But what's even cooler is if this character that's actually the Warden is actually some character we've known before, or is it somebody that we've never seen before. Of course, when I say Warden, I do not mean guard, so I'm not talking about the guard or Ferguson. Those are totally different people, at least to our knowledge, that these are totally different people. I don't know why people like combining the two, but the Warden and Ferguson are different. The Warden and the guard are different because the guard and Ferguson is the same person, the Warden is an entire different person. But anyways, the next image we actually see some, I believe, prisoners, but at the same time they kind of just look like patients wearing patients' clothes. But the reason I say prisoners is because if you look in the background, you can actually see some bars across this window we see here. So maybe this is actually inside Mob of the Dead. I'm not too sure. Of course it says shuffle shuffle right over it. Besides that, I really can't really point anything else besides they're all bald. Of course I don't think that's important either. And right under them we see the year 1933. That's when Mob of the Dead took place, so it doesn't really make sense for these people to be walking around Mob of the Dead when nobody should be walking around except our 4 characters, or the 4 characters from Mob of the Dead. But really I can't really say anything about it. Now we see this other image right under there, and we see the cryo chambers, which is so cool to see again. I think those things just look so amazing. And of course we see the around it, or the bunch of M's, and what a lot of people are kind of confused of what this is, and what I think it is, of course I could be mistaken, but what I think it is personally is that these M's actually stands for the hum of the cryo chambers. It's just letting you know the cryo chambers are actually on, so it's just the hum of the machine, and that's what I think it is. Of course it could be something completely different, but anyways, back to talking about these cryo chambers. All we really know about them is that the cryo chambers were intended for Takeo, Nikolai, and Dempsey, and they were going to be put in there just to be put on ice. And we heard this inside The Rise of the Rocket. Of course, inside The Rise of the Rocket, Takeo and Nikolai never were put in them, but that was the plan, and it's just what was supposed to happen. So maybe this is some other universe where they actually succeeded. But there's actually a problem with this, is that there was only supposed to be 3 people in there. Richtofen wasn't supposed to be in there because he was the one putting in there, but for some reason we have 4 cryo chambers. So this actually could be Pablo Marinus, or the Mexican test subject, and it could be him. I don't know, maybe, but it's the only person I can actually think of it actually being. And of course the 1933 date is also above it, but I'm not too sure if that holds any significance. But anyways, we'll come back to these dates in just a little, because I have a really interesting idea on them. But of course, like I said, we'll come back to them in a second. But anyways, look at this image at the top right. We actually see this one guy standing in between these cell blocks, and I believe this is also Mob of the Dead because it looks a lot like how Mob of the Dead did. We see this ceiling, and there was a sky thing, I forget what they're called, but those were also in some areas of Mob of the Dead. Of course, the cell blocks were inside Mob of the Dead. But one thing I do notice is that all the way to the right of this guy, we actually see something that doesn't exactly look like a cell block, but I can't exactly tell what it is. So if you have any ideas for that, what that is, go ahead and tell me down in the comments. But as for the guy who's actually standing there, of course, I have zero ideas for who the heck that could be. But anyways, we see our last image, and this one is very interesting. So what it looks like 4 people walking out of a portal, and who I think these people are, I actually believe these are our Origins characters, because just judging by the guy all the way to the right, it looks like his hat is the same hat Nikolai wears. So anyways, they're actually walking out of a portal inside 1941, or at least that's what the number would actually have you believe. But the year 1941, I don't believe has any significance to the zombie storyline. I can't even think of one weird, awkward way to connect this year, besides, okay, I have a weird, awkward way to connect this year, and it's if we look at the first number on this image, we actually see 1914. If you swap around the 1 and the 4, then it becomes 41, but besides that, I don't have any other way of connecting this to any other time we've seen the year 1941. Of course, if I am making a mistake, go ahead and tell me down in the comments, but from my knowledge, we don't have any real significance to the year 1941 in the zombie storyline. So it is interesting to see that they're actually walking out, but where they're walking out exactly to from this portal, assuming they are walking to some place inside 1941, or it could be, we really don't know, it could be Mob of the Dead, and I have one idea for this, and this could actually kind of explain why these years are placed here. And if we actually think all the way back to Origins and about Richtofen, we actually think he had the blood vials before Origins. It happened before we even started the game of Origins, so this would be the only year before Origins that we have, well, in recent years, not all the way back to the medieval ages, but the only year before that would be 1914, and maybe this is when he actually got his blood vials all the way back then. Now, how he actually did it, we really don't know, because as everyone remembers, Richtofen was a very skeptical guy of time travel and all this weird stuff back then, so it doesn't make that much sense for him to actually be traveling to a different universe to actually get the blood vials, but it could give us a year of when he actually did it. And then the next year, 1933, would just be significant because that's when Mob of the Dead took place. And then what 1944 could be is when they actually returned to Mob of the Dead to get the blood vials for the rest of the characters. It would be interesting if they did that. Of course, we don't know if that's the case, but it is interesting to think about. Anyways, that's about it for this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, go ahead and thumbs up. If you guys want to take for content similar to this, go ahead and subscribe. But I'm going to go, and I will catch you guys on my next video.